Let's talk about China now. Last week, we told you about some statements made by PLA officials. They said India does not pose a threat to them. And now India's military leadership seems to be giving a response to them. The Indian Navy is demonstrating its capabilities. They've conducted drills in the Arabian Sea. These drills involved India's biggest warships, INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant, plus 35 aircraft and other warships. Together, they're called carrier battle groups. What are they? A carrier battle group is a naval fleet. It consists of an aircraft carrier, which is at the front, and a large number of ships around it. The carrier is capable of launching ships and choppers. It's like a complete package, a floating air base of sorts. So what is the purpose of this exercise? Power projection, showcasing the Indian Navy's ability to operate not just in the immediate waters surrounding India, but beyond as well. Here is what a spokesperson of the Navy said about the drills, and I'm quoting, "The demonstration of naval prowess underscores India's commitment to safeguarding its national interests, maintaining regional stability, and fostering cooperative partnerships in the maritime domain." The Indian Navy is upgrading its capabilities. It is gearing up to meet the China challenge. You see, recent events at the border have led to a revelation. The PLA is a threat, not just on land, but also at sea. At the same time, India is at a vantage point on the high seas. There are key sea routes in the region. These are essential to the Chinese economy. I'm talking about the likes of Malacca Strait. This is a narrow waterway and a major vulnerability for China. In 2016, almost 80% of China's oil imports came through here. Also, about 20% of the global maritime trade and 60% of China's trade inflows, they go through this region. So this route is vital for China and its economy, and India is in a position to block it. Recent reports say that India is also planning a new naval base. It will be built on the Great Nicobar Island. This base will overlook the entrance to the Malacca Strait. It will give clear tactical advantages to India, so a provocation in the Himalayas may be answered from the Great Nicobar Island. India could consider blocking Chinese tankers, and from the same base, India would be in a position to watch Chinese movements in the Indian Ocean. Also monitor China in the South China Sea. Remember, this is another major international flashpoint, the South China Sea. And such a base is increasingly critical for India because Chinese activities in the Indian Ocean are growing. Consider what India's Navy chief said in the month of April, and I'm quoting, "We're keeping a very close watch in the Indian Ocean region. An effort is to know whose presence is there and what they're up to, monitoring it 24/7, and we deploy aircraft, UAVs, ships, submarines, etc." China, you know, has the world's biggest navy, and it's expanding. It is building more warships. The PLA has plans to deploy more assets to the Indian Ocean region. Today, China has two carriers, Liaoning and Shandong, and they're working on a third one. It's called Fujian. Then there are Chinese bases in the region, like Djibouti and Gwadar in the west, and Hambantota in the south. So the trajectory is quite clear. China is building capacity to control this region in every theater of conflict. So India's best bet is to prepare. And these drills by the Indian Navy show that New Delhi is firming up its defenses. Now let's talk about George Soros. The controversial financier is retiring. At 92, George Soros is finally ready to pass on the baton. His infamous organization, the Open Society Foundation, or OSF, is getting a new head. Who is this chosen successor? Will control his $25 billion empire. His son, Alexander Soros, goes by Alex, is Soros' fourth child. Who is this man? What has he done so far? And what are his plans for the future? Our next report has more.
Meet Alexander Soros. He's a 37-year-old billionaire philanthropist, an allegedly reformed party animal who now spends his time donating to causes like environmental protection, education in Africa, and helping domestic workers. And of course, he plays a role in influencing politics. Because Alexander, or Alex, is the son of George Soros, the billionaire financier who keeps getting accused of meddling in international affairs. 92-year-old George Soros is finally retiring, stepping down from his $25 billion empire, leaving the helm of the Open Society Foundations. The OSF is an organization which donates to political parties around the world. It supports left-wing candidates and parties. For example, George Soros is one of the biggest donors to the US Democratic Party. He maintains that he supports causes like abortion and voting rights, that he funds parties likely to protect these values. But he's been accused of meddling in international politics and doing his best to crush conservative right-wing parties. Now, instead of rejoicing at the news of his retirement, the political right may want to be wary. It turns out their battle may just get tougher. George Soros confirmed his retirement during an interview. He said his son Alex would succeed him. Alex is Soros's fourth child. He has two elder brothers and an elder sister, and he also has a younger brother. Alex wasn't always going to inherit the Soros empire. His elder brother Jonathan was poised to succeed his father, but reports say Jonathan had a falling out with the family, and then Alex apparently gained his father's support. George Soros says that initially he didn't want any of his children to inherit the OSF. But then he changed his mind and said Alex had earned it. It might be a reference to the journey of reformation Alex went through. Alex reportedly loved to party back in the day. A few years ago, he was making headlines for the wrong reasons. But since then, he's had an image makeover. Alex joined the OSF in 2011. He became a member of the board. Then he established the Alexander Soros Foundation in 2012. He uses this to donate to causes he cares about, like the environment and education. He also completed a PhD in modern European history from Berkeley. It's a far cry from the party animal life, and that might be how he managed to earn the OSF. Alex was present at the interview where George Soros confirmed his retirement. The heir then made a statement. He described himself as, quote-unquote, more political than his father. And Alex threw down the gauntlet. He said, and I quote, "As much as I would love to get money out of politics, as long as the other side is doing it, we'll have to do it too." Yes, Alex will be continuing his father's tradition of funding politics. He's already been doing it as part of the OSF board, but now he'll be the one calling the shots. There are no questions about what he'll do in the US. Alex is known to be a frequent visitor to the White House. Those visits are likely to get more frequent in the run-up to next year's US presidential election. But what about the rest of the world? Where will Alex choose to spend the Soros billions? And how will right-wing parties fight the OSF's influence? We'll keep you updated as it all unfolds.
Let's talk tennis now. First, the prosaic details in case you missed all the action on Sunday. There is a new French Open men's champion. And no, he's not one of the much-wanted younger guns. Instead, he's a 36-year-old father of two. Novak Djokovic, the same guy who won the Australian Open this year. That was hard court. In Paris, it was clay. And there's a big difference, as anyone who plays tennis will tell you. But when you're Djokovic, it's triple talk. With this win, the Serb now has 23 Grand Slam titles, more than anyone else in men's history. His closest competitor is Rafael Nadal with 22 titles. Nadal missed the French Open due to injury, and his return to the court remains uncertain. Then you have Roger Federer, the eternal fan favorite. He retired last year with 20 Grand Slam titles. For the last 2 decades, these three have shattered almost all tennis records. But the real winner has been the sport itself. 3 superstars playing in the same era. It has never happened before and unlikely to happen again. And don't get me wrong, there have been many great rivalries in the past. Bjorn Borg versus John McEnroe, Pete Sampras versus Andre Agassi. But Federer versus Nadal versus Djokovic has been a treat like no other. Even the newly crowned French Open champion acknowledged it. Like Djokovic mentioned, the big three were originally the big four. Making up the quartet was Andy Murray. His career has been waylaid due to injuries. The Brit still plays, but with a metal hip. While Murray is a shadow of his former self on the tennis court, it tells us the stuff champions are made of, even when they're not winning. But back to winning. Among the big three, initially, it was Federer and Nadal who hogged all the limelight. Federer's artistry on court, Nadal's grit. their great rivalry, and their even greater bromance. Djokovic was almost always an afterthought, the court jester. If it were a movie, he would be the friend of the protagonist, or sidekick, if you were to be uncharitable. But Djokovic had a different script in mind. The court jester has not lost his sense of humor, but that steely determination is still clear. While Djokovic started out in the shadow of Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, in recent years, he has eclipsed them. His tennis turnaround has been dramatic, to put it mildly. He was always good, but suddenly he leapfrogged to being almost unbeatable. From war-torn Serbia to the Tennis Hall of Fame, this journey has been remarkable. His parents admit they put all their resources to help their eldest son achieve his dream, so much so that they now feel guilty of neglecting his two younger brothers. They're also tennis players, but their careers never reached the vertiginous heights of Djokovic's. But then again, how many can? This happens once in a lifetime, and that too if you're lucky. So is Djokovic the greatest male player of all time? The record books say so, but if you ask the fans, the answer is not so straightforward. While Djokovic's dedicated fan base is Noel fam, would vociferously agree, Federer and Nadal supporters, and there's a sizable number of them, would disagree. Plus, Djokovic has always been controversy's child, from being an anti-vaxxer to his recent remarks on Kosovo. Winning on court has been far easier for the Serb than winning the hearts of tennis fans. And it has been a sore spot for him too, especially because Federer and Nadal are so universally loved. Now, you would think if Djokovic has the most Grand Slams, then he is the greatest of all time or GOAT. Well, statistically, yes, but you seldom choose your heroes based on statistics. It's more like a one-sided love story without much logic or reason. When asked if he thought he deserved the GOAT title, Djokovic chose to play it safe. But he's not thinking of his legacy. He's thinking about Wimbledon, the next Grand Slam tournament, because he is nowhere close to being done. There is still plenty left in the tank. 36-year-old and at the top of his game despite all odds. Players half his age can't seem to find a way to beat him. Just a few years ago, it would be curtains down on your sporting career if you touched 30. Djokovic, who's back to being number one, is defying those odds, and how? But then again, the Serb has been rewriting history for decades now, from 1 to 23 Grand Slams and counting. Our last story, as I'm sure you can tell, is about hair and its role in evolution. A new study has thrown light on hair and the human species over millions of years. Apparently, curly hair helped keep human heads cool and aided the development of the human brain. Our next report has the details.
The things we do to appear cool, right? Getting our fashion sense on point, staying up to date with the latest trends, and even getting our hairstyles right. But what if we've been styling our hair wrong all along and doing the very things that make us uncool? Here's an interesting figure. Over 60% of the world's population either has curly or wavy hair, but not many people like their hair curled up, especially not in India. Indians consider straight hair to be the ideal type. But a recent study has found that curly hair could actually be an asset, a shield for our body, if you will. Researchers from Penn State University in the US and Loughborough University in England came across an interesting finding during their investigation. They found how early humans in Africa stayed cool and hydrated. They didn't have cold water or air conditioners, obviously, but what helped them was curly hair. Not only did curly hair keep them cool, but also protected them against extreme heat and the sun's harmful rays. How's that, you would think? Well, thickly coiled hair has been found to help the human body conserve water by minimizing the need for sweating. Equatorial Africa is thought to be the epicenter of human evolution. Now take a guess. How did staying cool and protected from harmful sun rays help early humans? It actually played a crucial role in the development of the human brain. Humans started walking upright somewhere around 3 million years ago. Around 2 million years ago, humans were fully evolved, but the size of their brain was smaller than it is today. Here's where curly hair came to the rescue. Tina Lassisi, who conducted the research at the Penn State University, says,
We think scalp hair provided a passive mechanism to reduce the amount of heat gained from solar radiation that our sweat glands couldn't.
No scientific research can never be complete without experiments. So the researchers used a mannequin to test the effects of solar radiation on different human hair wigs, and they found that tightly curled hair provided the best protection against the sun's heat. Now, humans are creatures of their time, which is why hairstyles are such a big thing. Today, they're a fashion symbol, but thinking that they're nothing more than a cosmetic prop would be highly reductive on our part. Hair protects the scalp, and in fact, it's a vital part of our natural defenses. Eyebrows, eyelashes, and even the hair in our nostrils keep nasty foreign particles away. Hair also plays a crucial role in our sensory perception. Hair follicles are surrounded by a network of nerve endings, which is why they're sensitive to touch. In the evolutionary scheme of things, this sensory perception allowed humans to identify threats, like insects on their skin. So, the next time you pick up that hair straightener, you might want to replace it with a curling iron and do your body a solid one.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. We're starting with Egypt. A tourist boat caught fire off the Red Sea coast. 3 British tourists have gone missing. In the US, a major highway collapsed in the state of Pennsylvania. This happened after a truck under the highway caught fire. And in South Korea, a British man tried to climb the world's 6th tallest building without ropes. He was halfway up the skyscraper when authorities intervened. The man has been detained now. And finally, what makes the 12th of June significant? We're taking you back in history. On this day in 1964, Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. The man who dared to oppose the apartheid regime in South Africa was accused of sabotage. In his 27-year jail term, Mandela was confined to a small cell and was forced into hard labor, but he remained unbroken. We're leaving you with this. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
كافر
كابس كم كافر واحد
يوم هذول كنا